Good day, welcome to Music Motors. Welcome to the 2021 Audi S3. So powered by that fantastic 2-litre TSI engine, this produces 310 PS, 400 Newton meters of torque, gets to 62 in 4.8 seconds and has a limited top speed of 155 miles an hour. But the big thing is, this has had a bit of a revised facelift. For better or worse, that's up to you. For me, I quite like it. This one's finished in Python yellow. It's got optional 19s. It looks superb. But the S3 is supposed to be capable of everything from daily life to track hooning. So in this episode of Music Motors, I find out just how Audi have refined the 2021 Audi S3. If you enjoy this video, stick around, subscribe, like, do all those bits that YouTube people are supposed to tell you to do. Outside, Audi have unquestionable design language. You can spot them from a mile away, from their headlight clusters to grille designs. And with an S3, it has a very, whilst sharing of the platform side profile, still slightly unique to the S3. You can spot it, and especially when you come to the silver mirrors. But up front, I mean, starting with a light cluster, looks really, really lovely. This one's got the optional matrix, like directional lights going on, and obviously headlights going on, which mean that you blind everyone coming the other way, but they're pretty blooming good. Up front, it is quite nicely redesigned, styled, nice extra intakes, which we've seen on the A1, and obviously going through all the different models in the Audi lineup. The biggest thing then turned to the fact that the grills are changing. Everyone's changing grills, and yeah, it's a bigger grill, but in comparison to the previous generation, it isn't that much of a step up. Compare it to an 8L, you know, 2003, 2004 S3, then yeah, the grill is significantly bigger, but in real terms, it's not changed that much. When you get to the side profile of this particular car, obviously those optional 19s are, like, they are seriously lovely to look at and are a massive step up on the standard wheels that you get with this. You then note that you've got these like silver wing mirror covers as have been going through S3s for years and years and years, or shall I just say anything S whatever with Audi. And then just nice, strong, sleek lines down the side. Powerful but not overwhelming design, especially considering that this is based on the same platform that something like a Golf will use. It still stands out above them in their own Audi unique way. When you move to the back, obviously you've got the quad exhaust. That's the first thing you're going to spot, but then you notice, oh, that's a nice rear diffuser design going on, and I really like the rear light cluster, and actually the lines are really nice. They kind of all come together at the back of the car to make this really fantastically designed exterior aesthetic. Now, some people really don't like this new update, and I guess I see where they're coming from, because some people really don't like the new Golf either. Not that you can really compare the two side by side, because this is a lot more of a premium car. But the one thing I will say is that when this first turned up, I just went, it's all right. And then as I got used to it, I started to like it more and more, especially with the slight options. I mean, this Python yellow paint job means you're never going to lose it in the car park. And the optional 19-inch alloys on this one mean that it really does look the part. What I will say is that whilst they look the part, they don't aid the ride, but more of that a bit later on. Generally then, the outside looks really cool. I really like front, side and back design aesthetic. As a general overall look, Audi have done, for me, a very nice job of updating it. But if you were going to go for one of these, don't go for a bland colour, don't go for a black or a grey. As cool as they look, you know, with, you know, full black pack going on, go for something bright, be different. It's Python yellow, it really looks cool. Owning an S3, fuel economy is probably not very important, let's be brutally honest, but on a motorway we know it can achieve 35, 37 miles per gallon, depending how you drive real world. But around town, it can be a bit of a shot in the dark, you never really know. So to not take it as fact of what Audi said, I'm gonna do a bit of town driving and see how this does, including driver comfort and all the interior bits and pieces. Let's go.
So rather unexpectedly, turned around 27.6, and obviously as you saw, there was quite a lot of varied driving. There was a fair amount of standing still, which wasn't always with the engine off because sometimes the battery just got a little bit low. But what can I say? Around town this is very quiet, it's quite smooth, but obviously being an S3, potholes are relatively noticeable, and when the road's all over the place you notice it, but it is still quite comfortable. Visibility's great. Steering wheel, well, feels lovely. The lock around town definitely is a little bit more troublesome. The same as like a Golf R and Leon and all that sort of stuff, same sort of platform. But really, that fuel economy figure, considering the type of driving cycle I did, was actually very impressive. I did drive it in economy, but not in an economy gearbox. You could have driven it in dynamic and got something around that. I just decided to give this the benefit of the doubt and really push it to potentially get great fuel economy, which I think was there. So city test goes, thumbs up.
Inside, this is the type of technology that I've seen in the Volkswagen Audi group for quite a while, as in at least for the last year. All their new vehicles seem to be coming with this nice new, TFT display in front of the driver, a good size infotainment, and this new kind of design aesthetic when it comes to the interior cockpit. But what Audi have done is they've just made it a little bit more special. Yet it's still got a lot of plastic in it because that's the only way to make cars semi-affordable. Bearing in mind the base price of one of these is about £37,000 on the road. But then what they've done is added little bits of, I call it fake stitching, on the dash, just to make it stand out that little bit more. Over here you've got a nice Quattro sign going on. The vents are just slightly better finished than they are in a Volkswagen. And then when you get to the driver's seat, whilst these aren't technically super sport seats, they've got that nice kind of quilted pattern. These are Napa leather, which obviously means that they are slightly more robust to the everyday life, and they are very comfortable, heated with this one, which means you're never going to get cold on a winter's day, which is essential when you've got leather seats because leather really shows you when it's cold. Up front, headroom's relatively good, can feel a little bit cramped at times getting in and out, but that's no different to a Golf or to a previous generation S3. Rear legroom, as you get back there, is pretty decent, to be fair, for the size. Nothing more, nothing less than you would expect of anything in this segment. Realistically, it does a pretty good job of that, and ISOFIX, so family car, just bang up there. Boot size, what can I say? It will take most of the stuff you need, but because this is on this platform, there is a fair bit of wheel ingress. Wheel ingress means that you can't get wider items in, so if you need this for taking samples and stuff, no problem, loads of room for that. But if you've got a massive pram that needs to go in, do your measurements, because it looks very big, and it is, to be fair, quite a big space. But realistically, that wheel ingress does affect quite a lot of what you can fit in there. The interior quality is very good. This one's got the optional Harman Kardon sound system. Now, Harman Kardon has a bit of a hit or miss with me. Sometimes it's fantastic, like I've seen in Volvos, and then it's a bit of a miss, like it generally seems to be in BMWs. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a miss in this as well, because it only gives you treble and bass control, subwoofer control, and surround sound control. That's all it actually gives you to control, which as a result means that at some points you might want to get rid of a bit of top end but have a bit more mid, or you want to knock some mid out but not lose your bass. It doesn't give you a lot of control, and for a premium sound upgrade, I really feel like it's kind of not worth the money, because the standard system is pretty blooming good as standard. As you may have heard there's that inputted 5-pot tone, which Audi are now pumping in. Initially I didn't like it, but it does help you connect to the car. Realistically, a 2-litre TSI is going to feel a little bit unengaged, so that does a pretty good job of making sure you do feel engaged. And that was just in auto mode, I wasn't even in dynamic. And finally, interior volume levels are pretty decent. Obviously, this has got P0s on them, and they're a very noisy tyre, and this is still a relatively sedate place to be. So imagine if you put Pilot Sport 4S's on. Performance, which is what an S car, an Audi S car, is all about. So this one, obviously, 2-litre TSI, 310 PS, 400 newton meters of torque, 4.8 to 62, and a limited top speed of 155. A Quattro all-wheel drive system planting that power onto the ground. And the other thing to note, these are very tunable, and there's many different things that you can do to make the performance suit what you need. Historically, I've always found Audis a little bit numb when it came to an S3, because when you look at things like early generation S3s, I go back to that 8L, it had more of a mechanical feeling and more of a mechanical engaged drive, especially with the fact you had a manual gearbox, which this doesn't. Add that on top of the fact that at times in previous generation, the S3s, the steering felt a little bit light and the brakes could get a little bit numb. To this one, where when you're in economy mode or auto, yeah, sure, it feels like a numb everyday car, but when you put it into dynamic, the weight comes onto the steering, the noise pumps in, and it's mega responsive. The brake feel is very good, and honestly, no matter how hard you push this, you're unlikely to see very much brake fade. So okay, they've made that better. If you look economy on top of that, okay, you're going to see 35 to 39 on a run, depending how you drive, but around town, you're never seeing under 20s like you used to in the previous generation. This, unless you're a real hooligan, you never see any less than about 25. And then the technology, the driver technology, the bit that's just popped up, is telling me, wait a minute, I've got limited visibility, some of my systems aren't going to work, because this has quite a lot of technology, including lane keep assist, which as a driver aid, fantastic for long distances, but it should be quite easy to switch on and off when you don't need it. The issue is that when you switch this off, you go through the sub-menus and you find it, the second you turn the car off and back on again, it's engaged and it's pulling you about, because sometimes lines in the road aren't accurate and you need to very quickly turn that system off. It's not as easy as that. So mechanically, this now feels engaged. Still makes a great sound, still pops and bangs out the back when it needs to. And the fuel economy's got better. Honestly, the drive is significantly better than the previous generation, but still, there is that amount of non-mechanical feel you get at times. The steering doesn't always give you great feedback, but as a car that's supposed to do everything, from a mechanical point of view, it does. So aesthetically, exterior, I really like the update, but I can understand why some people are a little bit kind of weirded out by it, not really appreciating it. I get it, the previous designs were lovely, but this will grow on you, and especially in this Python yellow colour. The interior is very, very sedate, very refined, and very Audi. There are some options that I would advise you get, like having super sport seats, like going for nicer infotainment, but don't pay currently for the Harman Kardon sound system. Spend a bit more money, go for the system above that, because it's okay. Don't get me wrong, it's okay. But if you're a real audio nerd, it's not quite there. And the performance, slightly more brake horsepower than the previous version, because they went down to 300 for a little while, didn't they? And the drive is significantly better than the previous generation, because now it finally is starting to feel a bit more refined. They've always felt connected to the road, but now they're feeling more mechanically engaged. And for me, that's what an Audi S car is. It is real connection to the car, but not totally savage like, say, a Cupra. You know, Volkswagen Audi Group, Cupra Leon, previous generation, the 300, that was stupidly firm and was an absolute savage to drive. Same sort of brake horsepower output, but was more track orientated. Whereas this is aimed towards the person who does a bit of everything all the time. This is for the person who has to go on a school run, but equally goes on track days, who has to go long distance, but really does enjoy their weekend evening country jaunts. This is a very well-rounded car.